And I think a true mark of leadership is learning from a failure. And you speak of a willingness to be persuaded when your idea is perhaps not the best idea, or the ability to persuade somebody when you think your idea is the better idea. So my question is when has there been a moment in your career in politics or otherwise that you've been persuaded that one of your ideas or one of the things that you've done perhaps wasn't the best idea?
Sure.
And you've learned from that?
I'll give you two examples. I mentioned one in the speech, which was I fell into the trap of thinking about makers and takers in the wrong way, about people who are struggling and for a moment need to be dependent upon government who don't want to be. So I was callous and I oversimplified and I castigated people with a broad brush. That's wrong, and there's a lot of that happening in America today. I myself have made that mistake. I think one of the policy examples of your question is I spent the last few years touring poor communities around America, rural areas, inner cities, learning about just how people are trying to struggle with poverty. And one of the things that I learned was there are a lot of people who have been in prison, who committed crimes that were not violent crimes, and who, once they have that blight on their record, have been in prison, their future is really bleak. And in the 1990s, I came here in the late 90s, we, I think, overcompensated on some of our criminal justice laws. I think we overcompensated on some of our laws where we had so many mandatory minimums and 3 strikes you're out that we ended up putting people for long prison terms, which ends up ruining their life and hurting their communities, where we could have had alternative means of incarceration, better means of actually dealing with the problem than basically destroying a person's life. And so that is why I have become more of a late convert to criminal justice reform. Criminal justice reform is something that I never thought about when I was younger in Congress. It's something that I thought just be tough on crime, and I think we as Republicans and Democrats kind of overcompensated on this in the 1990s. And now that we see the path of the pathologies that have come from it, I think we got to go back and fix that. That is why, as Speaker, I talked with Bob Goodlatte about this last night. We're going to bring criminal justice reform bills, which are now out of the Judiciary Committee, to the House floor and advance this. Because what we're learning is, and what I learned, and I didn't necessarily know this before, is, you know, redemption's a beautiful thing. It's a great thing. Redemption is what makes this place work, this place being America, society. And we need to honor redemption, and we need to make redemption something that is valued in our culture and our society and in our laws. And that is why I think criminal justice reform, something that I changed my position on from learning about the power of redemption and the fact that our laws got this wrong, that's something we can improve, so that when a young man comes out of prison, a person who is not a violent criminal, who did something where he really needed addiction counseling, he needed some other kinds of mentoring, maybe faith, that he can actually go back and be a productive member of society. Be a good husband, be a good father, make a difference, reach his potential. That's something we want to see more of, and I think our laws need to reflect that, and I think I learned a pretty good lesson about that over the last few years.